Page 2 of The Adventures of Master F.J. by George Gascoigne. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Note: Q1 here reads, When I had with no small entreaty obtained of Master F.J. and sundry other toward young gentlemen, the sundry copies of these sundry matters, then as well for that the number of them was great, as also for that I found none of them so barren but that in my judgment had in it aliquid salus, and especially being considered by the very proper occasion upon which it was written, as they themselves did always with the verse rehearse unto me the cause that then moved them to write, I did with more labour gather them into some order, and so placed them in this register, wherein as near as I could guesse, I have set in the first places those which Master F.J. did compile. And to begin with this his history that ensueth, it was, as he declared unto me, written upon this occasion. The said F.J. chanced once in the north parts of this realme to fall in company of a very fair gentlewoman, whose name was Mistresse Elinor, unto whom, bearing a hot affection, he first adventured to write this letter following. End of note. Fair Lady, I pray you understand that, being altogether a stranger in this country, my good hap hath been to behold you to my no small contentation, and my evil hap accompanies the same with such imperfection of my deserts, as that I find alwayes a ready repulse in mine own forwardnesse. So that considering the naturall climate of the country, I must say that I have found fire in frost. And yet comparing the inequality of my deserts with the least part of your worthinesse, I feel a continuall frost in my most fervent fire. Such is then the extremity of my passions, the which I could never have been content to commit unto this tell-tale paper, were it not that I am destitute of all other help. Accept therefore, I beseech you, the earnest good will of a more trusty than worthy servant, who being thereby encouraged, may supply the defects of his ability with ready trial of dutifull loyalty. And let this poore paper, besprent with salt teares, and blowen over with scalding sighes, be saved of you as a safegard for your sampler, or a bottome to wind your sewing silke, that when your last needlefull is wrought, you may return to reading thereof, and consider the care of him who is more yours than his own. F.J. This letter by her received, her answer was this: she tooke occasion one day at his request to daunce with him, the which doing, she bashfully began to declare unto him, that she had read over the writing which he delivered unto her, with like protestation, that, as at delivery thereof, she understood not for what cause he thrust the same into her bosome. So now she could not perceive thereby any part of his meaning, neverthelesse at last seemed to take upon her the matter, and though she disabled herself, yet gave him thankes, as &c. Whereupon he brake the brawle, and walking abroad, devised immediately these few verses following. Fair Bersaba the bright, once bathing in a well, with dew bedimmed King Davids eyes that ruled Israel, and Salomon himself, the source of sapience, against the force of such assaults could make but little defence. To it the stoutest yield, and strongest feel like woe, bold Hercules and Sampson both did prove it to be so. What wonder seemeth then, when starres stand thick in skies, if such a blazing starre have power to dim my dazzled eyes. L'Envoy. To you these few suffice, your wits be quick and good, you can conject to change of hue what humours feed my blood. F.J. Before he could put these verses in legible writing, it pleased Mistresse Elinor of her courtesie thus to deal with him. Walking in a garden among divers other gentlemen and gentlewomen, with a little frowning smile in passing by him, she delivered unto him a paper, with these words: For that I understand not, quoth she, the intent of your letters, I pray you take them here againe, and bestow them at your pleasure. The which done and said, she passed by without change either of pace or countenance. Ferdinando, somewhat troubled with her angry looke, did suddenly leave the company, and walking into a parke neere adjoyning, in great rage began to wreake his malice on this poore paper, and the same did rend and teare in pieces, when suddenly at a glance he perceived it was not of his own handwriting, and therewithal abashed. Upon better regard he perceived in one piece thereof written in Roman these letters, Colae, which in English betokeneth she, whereof placing all the pieces thereof as orderly as he could, he found therein written these few lines hereafter following. Your sudden departure from our pastime yesterday did enforce me for lack of chosen company to return unto my worke, wherein I did so long continue, till at the last the bare bottome did draw unto my remembrance your strange request. And although I found therein no just cause to credit your colored words, yet have I thought good hereby to requite you with like courtesie, so that at least you shall not condemne me for ungrateful. But as to the matter therein contained, if I could perswade my selfe that there were in me any coales to kindle such sparkes of fire, I might yet peradventure be drawn to believe that your mind were frozen with like feare. But as no smoke ariseth where no coale is kindled, so without cause of affection, the passion is easie to be cured. This is all that I understand of your darke letters, and as much as I meane to answer. Colae, in English, she. Ferdinando immediately upon receipt hereof, grew in jealousy that the same was not her own device, and therein I have no lesse allowed his judgment, than commended his invention of the verses and letters before rehearsed. For as by the style this letter of hers bewrayeth that it was not penned by a womans capacity, so the sequel of her doings may decipher, that she had more ready clerkes than trusty servants in store. Well yet as the perfect hound, when he hath chased the hurt deere, amid the whole herd, will never give over till he have singled it againe. Even so Ferdinando, though somewhat abashed with this doubtful show, yet still constant in his former intention, ceased not by all possible meanes to bring this deere yet once againe to the bowels, where she might be the more surely stricken, and so in the end enforced to yield. Wherefore he thought not best to commit the said verses willingly into her custody, but privily lost them in her chamber, written in counterfeit. And after on the next day thought better to reply, either upon her or upon her secretary, in this wise, as here followeth. The much that you have answered is very much, and much more than I am able to reply unto. Nevertheless, in mine own defence, thus much I alledge, that if my sudden departure pleased not you, I cannot my selfe therewith be pleased, as one that seeketh not to please many, and more desirous to please you than any. The cause of mine affection, I suppose you behold daily. For self-love avoided, every wight may judge of themselves as much as reason perswadeth. The which if it be in your good nature suppressed with bashfulness, then mighty Jove grant, you may once behold my wan cheekes washed in woe, that therein my salt teares may be a mirror to represent your own shadow, and that like unto Narcissus, you may be constrained to kiss the cold waves, wherein your counterfeit is so lively portrayed. For if abundance of other matters failed to draw my gazing eyes in contemplation of so rare excellency, yet might these your letters both frame in me an admiration of such divine esprit, and a confusion to my dull understanding, which so rashly presumed to wander in this endless labyrinth. Such I esteeme you, and thereby am become such, and even He F.J. This letter finished and faire written over, his chance was to meete her alone in a gallery of the same house, where his manhood in this kind of combat was first tried. And therein I can compare him to a valiant Prince, who distressed with power of enemies, had committed the safeguard of his person to treaty of ambassade, and suddenly surprised with a camisado in his own trenches, was enforced to yield as prisoner. Even so Ferdinando Jeronimi, lately overcome by the beautiful beames of this Dame Elinor, and having now committed his most secret intent to these late rehearsed letters, was at unwares encountered by his friendly foe, and constrained either to prepare some new defence, or else like a recreant to yield himself as already vanquished. Wherefore, as in a trance, he lifted up his dazzled eyes, and so continued in a certain kind of admiration, not unlike the Astronomer, who, having after a whole nights travaile, in the gray morning found his desired starre, hath fixt his hungry eyes to behold the Comet long looked for, whereat this gracious Dame, as one that could discerne the Sunne before her chamber windowes were wide open, did deign to embolden the fainting Knight with these or like words. I perceive now, quod she, how mishap doth follow me, that having chosen this walke for a simple solace, I am here disquieted by the man that meaneth my destruction, and therewithal, as half angry, began to turne her back, when Ferdinando, now awaked, gan thus salute her. Mistresse, quod he, and I perceive now, that good hap haunts me, for being by lack of opportunity constrained to commit my welfare unto these blabbing leaves of bewraying paper, showing that in his hand. I am here recomforted with happy view of my desired joy. And therewithal reverently kissing his hand, did softly distraine her slender arme, and so stayed her departure. End of page 2.